also for the, accept the minutes of 12/19. Any corrections, comments?
I'd like to make an addition to it. You requested that we get quotes for renovations, and I don't see that in here.
Okay, I don't put every little detail in there,
Well,
but so,
I understand, but just so people know that that we asked for them.
okay, no problem. All right, do that. Anything else? There ain't nothing?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes 5-0 with 1 abstention. All right, and now, back to HKA, and what have we got?
And the jacuzzi and the thrill out pool,
Yep.
right? Yes. So, well, we figure more of the townspeople will, buy into it now because now it'll be a rec center. as well.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, there you go.
Pickleball court.
Need pickleball courts.
So we're working on this. We haven't figured that one out yet.
Well,
So,
I think if we put the dump trucks outside
Yeah, seasonal.
and
Yeah.
used
Yeah.
inside for pickleball courts.
Nice day, pull everything out.
So just to kind of recap quickly where we were, so on the 6th of December, we had the programming session. We pulled that program together. On the 19th, the last meeting that we had, we reviewed the concept. There were 3 concepts. The committee voted to proceed with concept number 1. So that is what we worked towards. On the 10th of this month, the team went out to do an assessment of the 2 existing buildings that will potentially remain. We've all agreed that the salt shed is coming down, and we've agreed that the barn, or I call it the barn, the little wood structure, which is right here where the pool kind of is coming down. So we were asked to take a look at the house and then the main garage. All the engineers and everything walked through it and stuff. The house, in our opinion, is not worth salvaging, renovating, or anything else. The floor plan doesn't really meet, it'll all have to be up to code. There's a mix of foundations and everything. And the estimate that we would have on it is about $750,000 to renovate, fix it, tear it down. So it's probably gonna be cheaper to tear it down. But it's just not a good platform for anything. The ceilings are low in the basement and everything. We'd have to reshore everything. As the one report had said, there is asbestos in the joint compound, so that would all have to be abated as well. So that is our recommendation. Obviously, the committee can tell us how they would like to proceed on that. When we did the garage building we are recommending we keep intact. There is some infrastructure items that we will have to address, like water.
What garage you talking
No,
about?
the
I'm
main
talking
garage.
about
The existing garage.
Existing
The
DPW, yes.
Oh, okay.
Right there, the
Okay.
mason, okay. So if you've been out there and everything, you'll see that, again, it's unreinforced concrete, not insulated and stuff, but overall, what we've discussed as, or you've discussed as a committee, and we concur 100% with you, is the building is structurally sound. There is some cracking and everything, and the structural engineer's report has that, but that can be repointed and everything. Obviously, there's little or no insulation in that building. The new windows were installed, I think it last like 5 or 10 years ago. I have all my notes. I don't remember the exact dates and everything. So our recommendation would be to just clean up the building. And what I mean by that is there's some issues with the electrical panels, because right now you have the electrical panels right in the middle of a garage, which is a code violation and everything. So we could either build a room around that or relocate the panels or something. But it's really that kind of work that we do. Upgrade the electrical, your water heaters need to be tweaked. We would keep your bathroom in there and we'd just bring it up to code so that it's fully accessible and everything. And then basically leave the main garage as a vehicle storage, or call it cold storage or whatever you want. The other garage, there was a discussion about making that into a workshop type area. And we concur with all of that. And there's no reason to take it down. The other issue is by leaving it in place, it also gives you a home during the construction of the new garage.
Can I ask?
Yes.
If budget goes wild,
Right.
and we're gonna keep it down, and if we don't touch that building, do you have to upgrade anything?
No. You can walk out of there now and do nothing on it.
But it can still be used?
It can still
for-
be used and everything because it's grandfathered essentially.
Right. So that's, if we need to cut costs, that's a maybe thing to walk away and
Yes,
defer.
and do it at a
later.
future date, yes.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing I might do is if you're finished up the new building and stuff, at least throw a quick coat of paint on it, just so it looks tidy, because I know Neil and I are working on another job, and the existing salt shed was left there, and it needed a little more care than, tender love and care than it got. So they have the brand-new $20 million building next to a T-111 salt shed that's falling apart. And then somebody rammed into one of the buttresses, I think 2 or 3 of the buttresses, so that kind of helped it flare out a little more. So as a minimum, fortunately you don't have that problem with your building, but I would say if you're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony, put a painted coat on, coat of paint on it and call it a day, if that's the case. All right, so that's kind of the highlights of it. Again, all the assessment reports, we'll put them together in a nice little package, put them on bid docs if you want to download them and stuff. They're not, they address all the issues and stuff. The big thing is don't expect any great wonders or anything out because it's a pretty straightforward and simple building to address. All right, so now I will get into these plans that we have
Country
developed.
club.
So Mike, I'll let you go. So what we did is I worked with the civil engineer to see what we need to do and can do. I mean, again, I think we've talked about the last time all of the setbacks, buffer zones, so on and so forth. And essentially what we're doing, you'll see there's a dash line there and a dash line there. We basically have to stay within those dash lines, which the building clearly fits. Today what I'm going to show you is 3 options of this building because they address the pricing. You've got the full build out, and we'll go into all those details, and then you have smaller versions of that. But they all, basically this is the office wing sits in its place, and you'll see the building moving up the site a little as we cut some of the bays out and stuff as necessary. So here's the existing garage. We would propose putting a paved road or something, improve that. There's currently some storage shed trailers here. Dress that up a little with some trees and landscaping and everything to kind of soften that, make it a little nicer view and everything. Come around here, there are power poles, that go along here. The power pole from here to about here is like over 300 feet or around 300 feet, which is typically not a good way to do power poles. The lines are sagging and everything. And the only reason I'm addressing the power pole now is we would love to put everything underground, but obviously there's a cost associated with that. But what we are saying is, so that it's out of the way and stuff, is to put a new power pole there. And there's a twofold reason for that. First of all, the power is coming down the street here. What we would do is take an overhead line, or we're discussing underground, but probably come overhead and plant another pole there. That's to service the water treatment, because I think they have a 480 service coming and everything. So that would be there. Then what we would do is on this pole, we would come down that pole, come underground, and pick up your transformers and your meters and everything and put them at that end of the building, which closes up. If this building moves up like we're talking about, we would then recommend moving that down there so you don't see the transformer and everything. And I know nobody's really concerned. They're saying it's just a DPW. But again, it's a 50-year building, so if we can make it look nicer by simply removing that. Because the other thing, too, is they have fiber and power coming down that to pick up the house that's still remaining there.
And Eversource won't put in the extra poles?
What I'm saying is we just have to put the work order in for it.
Okay, but that would be their cost, not?
No, they're going to
No.
back charge us for that.
They don't do anything for free
No,
anymore
not
anyway.
unless you hit it.
There's no one there to hit, so.
It's, well, that is an option.
Right, could be it.
The only problem is if you take this pole down, you'll probably take down the water treatment plant, and you'll probably have a lot more concerns and complaints. So then the other thing that we talked about was the issue of segregating fleet vehicles from private or personal vehicles. So what we've proposed here is this becomes the parking area for employees/visitors, so that all the private vehicles are basically stay in this area. Obviously, you can post signs there saying, do not enter, fleet vehicles only, or authorized vehicles only. This would be a exit out from the, for the fleet vehicles as well as this. And then there, obviously, there's Middle Road along there. What we've also done is introduce some greenery strip along there, put some trees up. One of the things we'll probably have to work with the town on is on their bylaws. We're not supposed to be parking in the first 50-foot setback of the front yard. But because there's already an existing curb cut from here to here, we're anticipating that they may be receptive to a plan like this, because we believe that it's going to actually improve the aesthetics of the site, as well as get rid of some of the impervious materials. So what would happen is fleet vehicles could come in here, they either come through this that way, or they come around back, pull through, and pull out. The salt structure would be one of the first things that we would build. That would probably go in concurrent with when you're demoing the other salt structure. That way you're not down for a season. So if this is coming up in, we can coordinate the timing and everything, because I'm assuming that you're going to need salt all winter, whether the building's being constructed or not. But that makes for a very easy thing to do. Obviously, we would do the retention, some water management back there and everything. And then this basically becomes the site for the new facility. This would also allow tractor trailers, all sorts of vehicles to swing all around the site, go out. Fleet vehicles can go out either side, and this is where we put your fueling station. So that would be down at the end there. And then we left this little structure here, whether you decide to keep it or not, that's a call that you can make. And then we've, like I said, greened it up a little and, hopefully making for a nicer appearance and everything. So Mike, we'll go to the next slide. So this is, you'll see 3 options there, labeled options 1, 2, and 3. So this is the building that we last spoke about when we were there, this basic configuration, which the big takeaway, so this was the office component, which there weren't any real comments on that other than the office looked fine, it worked. Everybody was basically happy with the vehicle storage. And basically what you wanted us to do was rework some of the vehicle repair area. So there's 3 service bays there, 1, 2, 3, with a wash bay, and then the overhead bridge crane, and we reconfigured and made the space and everything. This building is about 28,500 square feet. So, and for those of you who want to do math quickly, right now for planning purposes, call it $750 a square foot, and you can multiply, and we're in about the $21 million, $22 million range.
Question,
Yes.
sorry, the last picture you had that showed parking,
Yes.
so between the building and Middle Street.
So you're talking here?
No, the fleet parking,
This right here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, how much, I would assume you're thinking about the...
There's 15 spaces there.
But I don't care about the number, I'm concerned more about pulling out of the garage with a big truck with a snowplow on it and being able to make that corner without hitting either those cars or taking out some garage
Well,
doors.
so from the back of the cars to the edge of the door is like 50 feet.
Okay.
So if you can't swing in that 50 feet, I think there's maybe other challenges that you're dealing with. Because I've seen some of the roads you guys have here, and they get pretty tight in there. So yes, we made sure that they could all come. Look, we did a job for Eversource once, and it was a Mass Ave complex. We relayed out all the roads and everything, and it all worked if you drove 10 miles an hour. Now understand, it's a very congested site. When you drive it at 40 miles an hour, which they did do, they wiped out a couple barriers, trucks, and everything else. And they said, we have to redesign. I said, maybe you should just slow down the driving. So I would say the same thing to the crews. Pull out of here at 40 miles an hour, chances are you will hit a car. But if you drive at a normal 10 to 25 miles an hour, you should be in good shape.
But I think Randy's bringing up a good point, because at the Franklin County bus garage, it was very tight getting in, pulling into their maintenance base. And because just looking at it, I said to the guy, he says, yeah, it is tight, we need it.
Is that the mechanic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the mechanics, I know you have a thing with the mechanics, but it is from a person that drove trucks as well. You don't want to You don't wanna tighten these guys down too much, you know, because of a tree on the end of the green space there. Now, the other question I have
30
is
we'll call it.
all the way to the bottom, where,
Eagle Island?
yeah, that green strip all the way across, and I assume that's the boundary line.
Yes.
Are you including some kind of fencing or something for truck lights shining into their?
Again, these are details that we could work. I mean, we were gonna put some vegetation there.
Is that what, I can't tell if it's those like bushes, those
Those
little.
are,
square
yeah,
markers?
that would be like
Like
a
arborvitae's
hedge.
or something?
Yes.
There
yeah.
needs to be something, I know it's one house, but,
Mhm.
you know, they are tight
Now,
to it.
the 750 square foot, that does not include total cost, that's just the construction cost, correct?
Building only.
Right.
Soft cost will be on top of that.
The soft cost would be on top of that, yes.
Okay.
And then, so you would like a fence along that, the residence?
Well, I think just to be nice to the neighbor, you know, we're spending all this money.
Arborvitae would be probably okay too.
Well, you know, the problem with arborvitae, they get up to 25 feet and then they're gonna have an ice problem because that's on their
So
south
they
boundary.
Trim them with the boom mower and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, we got, yeah.
Well, so for just,
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, I don't disagree.
yeah, for full disclosure, I'm not a fan of arborvitaes. There are other shrubs and
Yeah.
stuff that you can do.
I don't-
Arborvitaes are not my favorite.
They're,
Yeah,
they're quick and easy, but they're not.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just,
That's an easy one for discussion.
Yes, so
Yeah.
we can, yes, so.
Some kind of
the
blockage.
biggest thing
some
would be the
kind of-
light from the fuel island.
Some kind of blockage from the neighbor, that's about
Okay.
what it comes down to.
So again, you're a critical operations facility. Most of your hours are gonna probably be from, 6, 7 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So lighting should not really be an issue. Obviously, there'll be minimum security lighting at night. That's one of the things that we typically work with the planning boards and everything, is to put the lights on timers and stuff so that there are photo cell or however you want to deal with it. And we can talk about the mechanics of it so that the building can be relatively dark during the evenings and stuff. However, in a snow emergency, we light it up like Fenway. And the neighbor just has to live with the fact that it's a snow emergency and you're going to have trucks coming in and out all the time. But again, those are usually the conditions of orders that we work with the planning boards and stuff like that to make sure that we cover those concerns.
Normally, the planning boards require you to show by photometrics.
Yes.
Right, that you have site lighting that's cut off at the
Right.
lot line, so it's not bleeding over into the.
We did that
butters.
here with the
Now,
library.
now that said, right, you put a light on a pole 20 feet above everything else in the area, and you're gonna have some spillover. So we'll work with them, we can do cutoff fixtures, we can do screen fixtures on one side, like, there's a lot of different things we can do to try to minimize the lighting impact on the neighbors.
Right. Because I know Boxford, which we just ran all of the phone metrics to get through planning board and stuff, we were down to about 2 to 3 foot candles for most of the site. Obviously, you got closer to the building, you got up to 10 and stuff. But it's just one of those things. You want to be safe enough to run it. But again, if the building's closed, there's no snow emergency and stuff, there's probably going to be a light on at the entrance and stuff, and just some basic security lighting, so it's, but it won't be Fenway Park. All right, so that's essentially the building, and again, this, you could work this, we're proposing your material storage bins there for gravel, spoils, things like that, so that most of those dirty operations stay in the back of the building. You have your buildings come through here. Again, we would propose that you use that for the cold storage, seasonal material, equipment as well, while the mowers might be in here during the summer and on trailers and everything, and plows might be temporarily stored there, fine. I know I talked to Scott about how he wants, and they will show you, Scott, on the plan, you can create on this aisle, put all the plows there so a truck can just pull in, plug in the plow, and then pull out. So that is all taken care of that. So if you kind of keep this in mind, the whole building orientation is all going to be the same. You're just going to start seeing the building creep up. Right now, what we're telling you, because we just did it for Hudson, you're probably about $650 for the fuel island, maybe $700 by the time we get this project out to bid. And the salt storage shed is going to come in at about $600 as well, $650. So you're looking at about $1.3 million for those two structures alone. All right, my next.
What size tanks are you? 4,000?
4,000. All right. So what we have here, again, your office area here, you come into the entrance here, you either go into the fleet area, if you're an employee, come in here in the entry. This would be a locked vestibule. You need secure, either to buzz you through or use your card reader to get through. So basically the public would be restricted to that entry. Obviously the receptionist there, and then there would be additional admin people, Scott's office, conference rooms, supervisors there, racks, file rooms and stuff. And so this is a pretty tidy office area that everybody can work together and everything in. The crews, either they can come through this or come down through here. This is their area. There'll be men's and women's locker rooms, janitor's closet with a washer dryer configuration, and then the major break room. That we would propose that you'd have flexible tables similar to this. They can set them up as banquet style, turn them into classroom style for training and everything else. And again, we can make some recommendations on furniture and stuff if you need that. Come into the main area. The cross aisle here, so you can queue trucks up and everything. As you can see, you can park the vehicles. Mike, is this the plan, or did we forget to do that plan with the plows?
It's on one of the other ones.
One of the other ones, okay, that's fine. All right, what we are also proposing is this little portion right here, and you'll see it in the elevations in a minute, is to make that the mechanical mezzanine and everything. So that's why you see this flight of stairs up here. We can have the discussion on, I know we're looking at potentially propane, heat pumps, some of the, in this configuration, heat pumps would probably work perfectly fine. We don't have to worry about the cold out, temperatures and stuff, because that can be configured on this particular plan. But again, those are the details that we can get into a little further. As you come down here, there's the office, tool rooms. This is one of the electric room in this, flammables, bathroom, fluids, mechanical room, sprinkler room, compressor room, wash bay, and then the lifts we can configure whatever Scott needs, something like that. And like I said, this building is approximately 28,500 square feet. Next,
28,000 or 20,000?
2028, 28.
28.
This fits all of your program. Now, I'm going to say that loosely because, again, programs are a little bit flexible. The office is all met. All three schemes have identical offices, absolutely identical offices. One of the schemes that you're going to see is we're going to just cut off one of the service bays. That's a decision you all make, okay? And then the other thing, the last scheme, you'll see that we cut off one of the storage bays. You can still fit all your principal equipment in, even in the small scheme, plus the fact that you have the existing garage too to cover for that. Because the existing building is about 8,000 square feet, plus or minus. This is 3 times the size of it. So I'm hoping between the existing building, even if this goes down to say like a 22,000 square foot, you still have a sizable DPW facility. Next scheme. So then this is just a series of elevations. So you'll see the 3 service bays, garage bay, storage, entrance in. Next slide. This is as you're coming down Middle Street to kind of get a feel for it. Again, we're trying to soften the look and everything. And obviously there won't be grass here. This is where we put it over a Google map so you can kind of see it next. This would be down at the south end. Here's the wash bay, high windows to get you light and everything in there. That is the existing garage down there. Next, Mike. And then this is the rear of the building. We were asked not to put any flat roofs on it. And we've managed to get this with no flat roofs on it. What we're proposing on this, which is pretty efficient and everything, cost-wise they're about the same by the time for materials and everything versus labor, is we would use the insulated metal panels on this with a standing seam. So they should go up relatively quickly and everything, as opposed to putting a membrane. But again, the cost on the panels is slightly a little more material cost, but it offsets the labor cost. So this probably comes in a little cheaper. It's just not, it's not like it's half the price of like a membrane roof or something. So the reason I had mentioned that area here is we're proposing this as your mezzanine for mechanical stuff. We can put louvers to the side to bring in air as necessary depending on what system we ultimately want to do. But if you're also deciding to put heat pumps in there and go all electric, the big challenge with heat pumps and stuff is what happens when the air gets too cold outside, how efficient they are. But because you have this room and it's going to be throwing off its own little heat and everything, you're probably never going to drop down to those conditions where the heat pumps wouldn't work. not often we can say that on a project like this. But again, we'll go with whatever heating system you want. I know the last time we talked about propane, and if that's still the direction, we will proceed with propane. I don't think you wanted oil, and I'm definitely not recommending wood pellet. Again, frankly, they wanted that. They insisted on their wood pellet.
Could you go back to your heat pumps? You're gonna locate them upstairs?
Yes.
Okay, so they'd be inside the building,
Yes.
but bringing in outside?
Yes,
there?
because Mike, if you go back a slider, maybe it's one more, please. Okay, because we have all these windows up here for light and or louvers, and then go back to the other one, we have the back walls too. So we can configure the space to be fully efficient, so that they work, and they're not in the, 20-degree weather or something with a wind chill of, 10 below or something.
And those heat pumps are gonna take care of the whole building?
The idea would be the heat pumps would run the radiant floor heat through the garage areas, and then we'd have VRFs in the office areas, so yes.
And is heat pumps, I guess, gonna be cheaper to operate versus propane, in the long term? And
The
what's-
answer is probably no.
Heat pumps are pretty expensive to run
Yes.
in the winter.
Yeah.
I have them in my house, and I ran them extensively last year, and then when I saw my electric bills, this year I put pellets in the stove
Yeah.
instead, because they're great for cooling, I think, but they're not great for heating.
So when we did Boxford, because they had us do the exercise between natural gas, which they do have the option for natural gas, and heat pumps, okay? There was probably about a $20,000 difference in running the building. I think it came out to like $88,000 for the year to run the building with the heat pumps and stuff, whereas closer to like the $68,000 range for gas and the VRFs. So they are more expensive. There is slightly more, upcharge, because one of the other things too, and this is a decision, less concerned now because of the way this building was configured as opposed to Boxford, is that Boxford, we had to put in a supplemental heating system just in case because it was critical. So we were putting in kind of dual systems because we were putting the heat pumps as one option for the primary with the gas-fired boiler to just kind of help boost them along. It's a decision you guys would have to tell us, but to answer your question, I don't think it's going to be cheaper running electric, plus if electric goes up. But then again, if, propane goes up, that's also a challenge too.
But just in your past experience in Boxford, you're saying it was like $20,000?
About a 20,000, yeah. So these buildings are, like, again, we're calculating them and everybody's, they're running about, on average by $70,000 to $80,000 a year in utilities. So your utilities are going to go up substantially.
Okay, and then, so the difference in price between heat pumps or propane boilers or whatever,
About $500,000
it's more for the propane or?
more for the heat pumps.
It sounds
I'd like to see.
Look like
I'd like to
30
see
30 to
gas for the heat
35% more.
And the heat pumps for the AC.
But so the thing with
Kind of a
the,
hybrid.
well, yeah, so you're going to get that automatically for the
Right.
VR. So here's the thing with the reason the heat pumps come in higher than just straight gas or something is because we have to rebuild the electrical infrastructure to take the extra draw. So where you could get by with maybe an 800 amp panel here, now we'd have to jump to a 1200, 1600 amp panel if we go with heat pumps. So you're bringing in higher reserve, you're upsizing your generator, you're doing a lot of different things. So when we ran Boxford, and again, this was last meeting, which was last month, basically it's a $300,000 to $500,000 delta to put heat pumps in.
Now, these are heat pumps, what are they using for the medium, just the outside air?
Yep.
So they're not geothermal of any type?
No.
Okay.
So if the heat pumps are more expensive to install, and they're more expensive to run every single year for the next 50 years, at least by today's calculations,
Mhm.
my opinion is why would we put them in?
Because some towns are doing it because they believe that it's more important to be net zero and energy efficient,
Northampton
carbon
just made it
neutral.
mandatory.
And there are other people that say,
Not
let's
yet.
be practical. So here's what I will say, whether you use electric hybrid, with propane or oil or whatever other thing. The biggest thing that you'll find is that the building envelope is much more efficient. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which heating source, because you're still using, because if you have a much more efficient, it's just getting to that heating source, what is more. So you're absolutely right. If you were asking me strictly dollars, I would not justify telling you to go to heat pumps. On the other hand, if you have somebody up or half the town stand up and say, we want to go, carbon neutral, everything else, then you have to put a number out on the table. And Boxford said, we don't tell everybody, and nobody's happy about the first price of the thing, and when you tell them an extra $500,000 in their case, they're even less happy about it.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead. If we put, gas, like a couple of night locking bars, you do radiant heat, some what are you gonna do your AC with? Are you gonna use heat pumps for
It'll
just
be on the
strictly
VRF,
AC?
yes, yes. It's,
Okay.
This building, the way we're looking right now,
Mhm.
that we're looking kind of
At the back.
southwest,
That is the, essentially the east side of it.
It's the rear of the building.
Yeah,
so that building is not laid out for putting solar on a roof.
no, it is not.
Okay.
Is everything AC'd, or just like the mechanic bay in the office side?
Just the office.
Just the office?
Yes. Now, look, there'll probably be a mini split in the IT closet.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
always
that
want
has
those.
to be.
Yeah.
And then, if you want me to, we can put a mini split in the mechanics office,
Yeah.
Some of the people say, I don't want my mechanic in a comfortable office, he should be out there working in his bays.
Yeah,
Others say,
Exactly
give the guy a break.
yeah.
Depends what they're storing in there too, because like, we got paperwork and stuff, the humidity gets to
It
it.
does, yeah, the humidity's the worst
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
The
And if
floor
it's just
gets
that
wet,
one
yeah.
section,
Yeah.
what's the size difference for the generator if we did all mini splits for the backup?
Oh, nothing, that's gonna be relatively small. It's if you put the heat pumps in for the whole system.
Well, that's what I mean, what size, now we have to buy a huge generator?
You have to buy, yes. I don't
Yeah.
remember. Do you
Okay.
remember off the,
All right.
I'd have to pull up the
Well,
drawing.
you could, yeah, you
Think
could,
truck versus minivan.
yeah, no, exactly,
That
yeah.
is probably a good
Yeah, it
analogy.
could triple the cost of just a generator if that went down in the wintertime.
Yeah, and then you've gotta put a bigger fuel source for the generator
Like,
in
yeah,
too,
yeah, so you're putting in that propane tank anyways.
or a bigger one,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
or a couple more.
Or, yeah, yeah.
Well, the generator will be diesel.
Okay.
Presumably.
Well, right now, we have diesel and propane, right? There's a backup at the the
No,
safety
that
company.
is now natural and propane.
Okay, yeah.
So because you're a critical operations, you technically should be
Diesel.
diesel, because you don't want a gas line interruption or something. And so, plus you can also pull low fuel out of your trucks if you run out.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
so
the-
we
I think
would
the
definitely
diesel ones
recommend a,
Are better for
Yeah.
generator anyway.
Yeah.
all right, next slide, Mike. And then that's kind of the aerial view with the pool and the saunas and everything. So just keep this in mind because you're going to start. So right now we have 1, 2, 3 garage bays, 1, 2, 3 vehicle storage bays, and wash bay at the end. Next slide, Mike. Option 2. So what you see is we dropped off a mechanics bay. Okay? You're looking at about, $750,000 to $1 million for dropping off that bay. So it moves the needle. This is a decision you're going to have to, work with Scott, and you all agree. Do you need the 3 bays? Now, Scott, cover your ears, and hopefully none of the mechanics are here because they won't like what I have to say about it. We have dealt multiple garages. You've met the gentleman over at Franklin Regional. He originally had one garage worse than what Scott's guys have now, okay? And it was a palace, and he loved it and everything. We built him everything over at Franklin Regional, and he said it's the worst garage he's ever worked in. Did the same thing at Medway and everything. We do them at Eversource. Eversource has a 22-bay garage. They say there aren't enough bays, because a lot of the mechanics, again, I'm not a mechanic, so I'm not, they like to pull a truck in there, see what the problem is, drop the transmission, order the parts for the transmission. They come in 3 to 4 weeks later, and that truck is sitting in that bay for those 3 to 4 weeks. Not accusing you guys of doing it, but that's typically how a lot of the mechanics that I've talked to like to work it and stuff. This becomes very expensive storage base for a truck. If you need to drop the transmission, tow the truck out and park it in the lot and bring in the next active truck. Then the other question is, I think you said you have 2 mechanics right now, Scott. You might get a 3rd one. This can still function, the wash bay can still function as a mechanics bay too, for the smaller stuff, headlights, things like that. So that's just a decision. I'm not gonna tell you good, bad, or indifferent. It's how you wanna operate your operation. The thing to keep in mind is, will this fleet garage be expanded to cover other departments in the town? Will you be doing police and fire? Obviously, you may not be doing one like the ladder trucks or something, but will this now be demand for this space to do other fleet vehicles through the town? If that's the case, then maybe the third bay does matter.
Well, I was the one that came up with a third bay option, and given that they do the police, and Scott brought up we should think of this building for the whole town, I would give up space for storage, given that you got the old building to store trucks in versus that, because in long term, and even if you only need 2 for the next 5 or 10 years, well, it's a good place to put that vac truck or something that,
Well, the vac truck has been designed that this is your vac truck.
I know, but you could
Yeah.
take, take some of that space out of there for a heated, that's my opinion.
How many square feet is this garage?
This garage is 27 2, so it's about 1,000 square feet dropped off.
Yeah, about 12.
Yeah.
So David, I do agree with you that, you know, the long term, and, you know, like, you go down the fire department there, you can barely move in there, and he's got oils and this and that, whatever the service their stuff. I would think that you would want to have this facility kind of be the central maintenance.
So given if we cleaned up some of the junk that the fire department has in there, they wouldn't be looking for addition to their building as quickly, because the mechanic stuff would be here, and in the long run, I don't know, I guess, just, to me, it makes more sense, that's all. I would just, personally, if we have to cut, I'd cut square feet out of the,
Can you go back to the other place?
Other
So
storage.
here's one of the things that, compared to
The first plan?
Yeah, option 1. So here's a little funny thing that, did we clean that up? Did we resolve that problem? The stairs over there. Oh, that's what we did, okay.
Yeah.
So originally, we were gonna run the mezzanine over the sprinkler room in there. Problem with it is, under the 10th edition now, the travel distances from the mezzanine. So if we did that, we would have to put like an extra stair in and everything. So we just said, you don't get that extra, 200 square feet of mezzanine, because it's not worth it for the stair and everything they put in. So, because I know Mike and I spent, the afternoon trying to figure out the best way to do it. Okay, that's fine, Mike, so thank you. So I heard everything you said, and I'm gonna let the committee tell me 3 bays, 2 bays, it's your call. All right, and then this is now option 3? No, this is option 2. So option 2 looks very much the same, but you only see 2 doors rather than 3 doors. And I think you can keep going, but they're all pretty much the same images and stuff. Okay, so now option 3. So option 3, what we did was, we kept the mechanics bay out, and we took out one of the vehicle storage bays. Now we're down to about 23,200 square feet.
23.2?
23.2, yes. Okay. Here's the thing. And again, just quick numbers, doing it. This one will come in the teens.
This one will come what?
This building will probably come in the teens, not the 20s. And I know that there's a psychological thing, because Boxford's fighting that.
1995, right?
Yeah. No, but I think you could probably get this for 18.5. If this gets out sooner than later, and I'm saying if this passes in town a meeting in May, and we get this out into October to bid and everything, which we can meet that schedule and stuff, things might work out very well for you, because as you know, we own bid docs. They just did the Charlton Fire Department, estimated at 15 million and came in at 12 million. Okay. We are seeing prices level off a little and taking a slight dip. Can't guarantee anything, because tomorrow we could have tariffs and all the steel shoots up 50%. Don't know what the economy, but right now, there seems to be a lot of hungry contractors out there. We're doing the box, or we're doing the pre-qual on it. Typically, because Hudson, we got what, 9 or 8 or 9, so 7 like that. Now we're up to like 13 to 15. So that's just on the GC side. So Contractors are hungry out there. So if you're out on the street and say, like it said, September, October, bidding this,
But that's with 2 mechanics bays. If you go back to the 3, you're adding 1 million. to
right,
that.
right, so so we just wanted to show you a
Yeah.
scheme, because all the towns are pushing us, can you bring me anything in the teens?
Now, what would the soft cost be on a building, roughly how much?
25%.
25%?
Round numbers. What I was gonna say was, if you give us some sort of creative direction on which way you think you'd like to go, then we'll drop back and sort of put together a shadow budget, if you will, based on some very rough square footage at $750 a square foot, Greg's fee, my fee, what all that stuff looks like laid out for the course of the whole project, and we'll give it to the committee as a draft. Not for public information, but just as a draft,
Right.
so that you can see how the pieces and parts kind of build on themselves and then go forward. And just bear in mind, whether it's new construction or renovation, we need to have project contingency to bear with unknowns, so we'd be looking at roughly 5 to 7% on top
of the 25.
of that.
Yeah, so like, if, let's
For-
say it were a $10 million project for construction, you would carry at that 5%, 500,000 for that.
That's fine, okay.
I would almost do a 3-bay mechanic with this plan and try to keep it around 2,500 square feet, or
Yeah,
25,000.
so you'd be about 24.4
Yeah,
if you added the mechanics. bay.
exactly, yeah. Keep the small, you can always, for now, you don't have to put all the lifts in. But you-
Right, so I mean, those are the things that we can start talking about, like the bridge cranes and everything else. But if you're gonna buy a bridge crane, you might as well have it run. So we can start finessing that thing. But thank you for leading into what I was gonna say. We've tried to give you the combinations that work. To say more storage, more mechanics bay. I could see this working for you if you went with this, with the 2 bays. I could also see it working with you if you go 3 bays. I don't think you're going to be hurting on storage. Again, what we tried to show, here's where Mike and I were showing. So Scott, for your thing, the plows, and they would turn around obviously, but the plows can park here and basically be a Jersey barrier through that so that the trucks could just during the winter pull in. I'm assuming that during the winter time, these would be stuffed in a corner or something. Summertime, excuse me, yeah. And things like that. Some of the pickups have to park outside. Could be worse things in life.
Well, we still have the other building, right?
You still have the other building, but again, I don't know how many, and again, how efficient they are. Some of like Shrewsbury was stacking their mowers, so they got heavy racks, so they would park them, so they could stack them and get it more efficient. Very cheap way to buy space, because racking is relatively cheap. You just want all your equipment spread out and disassembled and everything. You guys will figure out how to best use your building.
And these prices that you gave us, did
Yes.
that include the updating of the electrical and whatnot in the current garage that you talked about?
Right now, we're estimating it's gonna be about $500,000 to do the,
But that's added to these prices.
again, I'm just giving you kind of ballpark. I wanted to get a sense of, first of all, do you like the direction it's going? Because Mike, can you go back to the site plan? First and foremost, are you happy with the site plan?
Yes.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
the layout, in my opinion, that layout that you've got there works very nicely. Yeah, there's a few issues on setbacks and everything else, but there's no setback violations that the planning board couldn't waive, that your conservation can't work with, from what I know of that. So the layout works very well with the areas that can be worked with.
Okay, great.
That's my opinion.
You're happy with the fuel island location, with like the school buses and the police?
That's the only thing I was looking at, it's kind of at the very end of the property, not like in the middle or the beginning, and now you're kind of congregating closer to the neighbor versus the center of our own
Well, you
property.
have all the DPW plus police and
Yeah.
school buses.
Going down there just for gas versus, could it go over by the generator area or
Well,
closer to the old?
Where would you guys like to see it?
I mean, down there, out of sight, out of mind, and out of the way is fine. I mean, but
Are you guys would you still use that for everyday fill-ups, or would you still use the gas cards?
No,
coming
we
in?
go.
We would go with that. That's-
Just that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge cost savings in having your own pumps.
And what, is there a huge expense to run electric down that far versus someplace else on the site?
For the fuel island?
Yeah.
No, because right now, and we're gonna have to work with everyone, you have power lines running down the street anyway. You know,
Well, the power is
But
coming
you'd
out
be
of the
taking
building.
the power out of the
Yeah,
building
yeah,
anyway.
Right. so you
That's a
can-
fairly short, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the real question is whether
Power and control
Eversource
lines would be
could
the
work
same.
out a way to get rid of your power lines there, because you're only servicing one house now at the end. But there's also some fiber up there, so I don't know how cooperative they're going to be. I know some of them, like Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light, they said, we're not running power lines in front of our building. So they put the thing, took them underground, and then they brought them back up, because they didn't want power lines in front of their building. But that's something we can.
So I guess I'll throw out a question for Randy and Andy. Given that we'll call it $20 million at this point, is that kind of a?
That's a good number, yeah, for
Okay.
planning purposes. And obviously, we'll tweak that as we get.
Yeah, so if we're at 20 million this spring, town meeting, and then you're reading the paper, 90 million for the dike, and all the different other projects, the fire department wants to go with a full ambulance, hire a bunch of guys. What are our chances of getting these things passed, and are there other things coming up for overrides, especially this spring or soon after this? Because people might just say, screw it, you guys aren't getting anything, because there's too many things coming down the road at once. And, you know, I don't want to see this thing fail, and then we wasted the 225,000 that everybody's working on
Right.
now, because that, to me, that's foolish to throw that away. But I guess where I'm coming from, we better have a good idea of what's coming down the road financially for the town, and then chisel away at the price as much as need to be to get something passed.
So the way I guess I would approach it, and what we've done on some of the other towns and everything, is if this comes up in May for the vote, are you competing against anything in May?
I don't know, that's what the question is to finance and
Or
stuff.
can you be, if this is the first one in May, you'll make it. I know that if you put a school against us, this ain't winning, you know?
No.
So the point being, if this is the only thing on the ballot in May, chances are you'll have a pretty good shot at it. And then the question is simply, what's the right number? Because I know when we did Hudson, they said 20 million and no more. And that was the number they went in.
And I kind of agree with you on that,
Huh?
but,
22.
822, but that was some insurance money and they worked some other,
No,
but
no,
they,
no. It was 23 million was the total ask at
but,
town meeting.
but construction was 20.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, that's
so,
it.
so I
Yeah.
kind of agree with your thought, except for, it's already been on YouTube about, you know, the fire department wants to hire a bunch of guys for ambulances, and also the $90 million, which we know darn well we're not spending $90 million, but just to upgrade the current dike, I think it was, what, 25 or something million they're talking about. So I see things are coming down where people aren't blind, they know they're possibly coming. So I'm just wondering.
We don't know where we're at right now with Dike, David, and I would hope that we'd get state and federal money to certainly
Hopefully some of it, yes.
a considerable amount, I would hope, but we won't know that until we get to that point. And then the other issue that you brought up is the ask for the ambulance, and we're just in the negotiation process right now, if you will. We're trying to understand how that's all gonna play out. What are the costs versus revenue, et cetera, to see if it actually makes sense. So there's no definite there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we've asked for the same thing for the ambulances, a full pro forma, so we can see what the actual estimates are. They're working on this. They've got it on a whiteboard somewhere. We'd like to see it all.
So Boxford is going through the exact same thing Hadley is going through. Boxford started at about the 28,000 square feet. Boxford is now down to 22,000 square feet. and Scott, you're gonna cringe when I tell you, they went down to one mechanic's bay for a couple reasons. First of all, they don't have a mechanic. Two, they just said, we need to cut money, because they are pushing us hard to get that building in the teens. Because for some reason, 18 is palatable to everybody, 20, is not palatable. And so they said, we will just give up on certain things, and I'd rather have a building, because their building's same vintage years, 1970s. They said, it's been up on the block for the last 10 years, and they've run different studies. They think this is their best shot, but they're very concerned about keeping it under 20. So that's the only reason I throw it. As you can see, if you go back to the elevations, Mike, and it doesn't matter really which ones, basically we tried to be very efficient. These are all just metal panels. Obviously there's some masonry on there, but we've all discussed knee walls and stuff like that. It's about as an economical building as you can build on this. There's nothing really, sure, could we pull out some more windows? Why? I mean, the windows are not, if I pull out 5 windows, I take $5,000 off the budget, it's not gonna move the needle, So that's really what it's coming down to, is to what you think the town can, digest. The other thing too is between now and I know Neil is probably on it because he's worked on these plenty enough, is whatever you decide today and whatever direction, but we get you the estimate, we finish it. But now it's an education thing with the town. Have an open house. Let the people come down and see what they're dealing with. They're not as bad as Whitman.
We'll see.
No, I mean the building.
Yeah, this is true.
And then I wasn't as bad as Hudson. At least you guys have a, at least you have a door on your bathroom. So, and you don't have a wood stove in the middle trying to keep the building warm. But anyway, it really is going to be an education thing at this point. I always encourage you, rent a hot dog machine, a cotton candy machine, and buy and a popcorn machine, and have an open house and let them see.
I think everybody agrees we need to do something.
Yeah.
But, option 1, 2, or 3, there's not a lot of difference to me, size-wise or money-wise. So I don't know if we need more options for either townspeople, like 15 million, 20 million, 25 million. That's a big difference in cost.
Yes.
Or, like you were saying, the fire department, they're talking about more full-time, but that's that number. But if they did approve that, what does it look like for the fire department? Do we have to spend 30 million on a new building because they have 11 new staff members and already we're jamming them in there? What's the bigger picture going down the road?
I think, from my perspective, part of what we're doing is coming up with the size building so that I can envision having 3 options at town meeting to decide how we're gonna spend money.
Yeah.
And that won't work.
No, I don't think I think we decide here,
Yeah.
are we bringing a $15 million building
Yeah.
to the table or a $25 million to the table?
Just for ballpark speaking.
Yeah.
Option 3, with all cost added, will come up to about 24 million.
Well, again,
That's very ballpark.
And that's hard and soft costs, right?
Everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything.
That's with salt shed and
Salt shed,
gas.
fuel island,
Yeah.
soft
And
cost
again,
contingency.
Yeah.
So that's a good, put that in your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
That's
know
ballpark.
the bottom line is at Boxford, we're trying to get all-in cost under 20 million. Just so
Roughly what size is that?
They're 22,000.
Okay, all right. So a little
But
bit
see,
smaller
they have
than that.
crazier things to do right now
Yeah, yeah.
because we're building like a half-mile driveway up, bringing power, we're clearing off, we're right next to a landfill, we're putting big retaining walls up.
Yeah.
I want to just get a sense from you I will run the numbers, you'll have a detailed estimate so I can sit there and say, yeah, the smaller building is actually coming in at 17.5, you add the salt storage shed, now we're at 18.5, tack on the soft cost, we're at 19,999. Okay, I just want to make sure before we go through that exercise that at least you like what you saw in the direction we were moving it.
And
So number 3 had 2 bays or 3 bays?
Like,
Two.
it had 2 mechanic
Two
bays,
bays.
a wash bay, and smaller storage.
Is that what we want, or do we want the 3rd mechanics bay?
I'd still say go with 3 mechanics bay and eliminate other square footage somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, now, one of the other things we can do, which we have done,
Start talking, Scott.
not necessarily thrilled with this, but I will say, okay, because this is what we did in Boxford. We got rid of this central aisle. You go, pull that up. We still put the doors there so you could run horizontally, but you didn't have this travel aisle. So all these trucks were put right in place there.
But how much
You lose about 3,000, is it about 3,000 square feet on this one?
Yeah, so that's what,
about-
75, that's like 90 feet wide.
20 by
About
20 or
25.
something, yeah.
So you're almost 2,500 square feet, 3,000 square feet, where we go and take care of that. Only reason I wouldn't do that is because this becomes a great queuing space, whether it's in the summertime for mowers, trailers, because a lot of towns will pretend like this is a truck, here's a truck, trailer, mowers and everything are ready to go. Snow emergency, people can queue in here. If you had to, you can park two pickups side by side. It becomes a very practical aisle. And that's one of those things. So I agree with you that if you take out one of these storage bays, I wouldn't necessarily take out this aisle, and then you can add that on, or again, we wanted to give you what we think realistically is the smallest building you should go with based on your fleet requirements and everything.
So taking out that center line where the four trucks are, to me, that's like the cheapest area that you're building,
Right.
but so we're eliminating a lot of square foot, but we're not really gaining $750 a square foot, are we?
No, and again, this is, that's why I wanted to say, we kind of go where we're at and everybody, because obviously the most expensive place on this building is that office area.
Yeah, what was the rough square footage on the office area?
What are we about, 5,000?
Yeah, I think it's about 5,000 square feet.
So is there area there that we can
You know, right,
shrink?
yeah.
And one of my thoughts was, and I know Scott said he does training and whatnot, but they're talking about doing renovations on the Goodwin. Is there gonna be a meeting room there where there'd be additional meeting room there versus us spending money here,
Additional meeting room at the existing building?
not at the Goodwin Memorial
Oh, Goodwin.
Building?
Across the street.
Yeah,
Well, again, as a minimum, you're going to need a break room for your crews.
yeah, but if it could be a third of it cut out, I'm just throwing out ideas.
No, I understand, but right now, this is probably tighter than Scott wants for training, because you see, we've only got, 20 people, 24 people in there. And so it's not overly spacious, and if he's running crews with his crews, and then he puts in a couple vendors or contractors in there if you need to or something, you're probably not that overly spacious and sized there.
So David, just for your knowledge, whatever, so like, next month, whatever, the guy from UMass is coming to our shop, we're hosting a chainsaw training, maintenance, et cetera, so obviously, we need to do that, like in our facility, we're not bringing
Can't do it in
gas
the
and
senior
oil
center.
in the senior center, and cause, so
So
we
I guess
do,
regardless, that's gonna be in the apparatus bay, not the office space anyways.
well,
right.
it's a hybrid, you do your classroom part, then you go out to the garage
Yeah.
kind of thing, but I mean, that's
Yeah.
where,
So I guess what do you,
No.
yeah,
I'm just looking for something to get it below the $20 million, into the teens.
All in,
Where,
yeah.
Let's face it, somewhere, in my opinion, something has to go. So I'm just throwing out a few areas, and-
So, to address your immediate question, we might be able to get 100 square feet out of the office or something, but that's not gonna, because basically, you look at like the women's restroom. Why do you have 4 toilets in the women's restroom? Because the code makes us put 4 toilets in. You don't need 4 more toilets in the women's restroom. And so these are the kind of things. So the office area is about as efficient as it can be. And, again, we could shave off, maybe a little out of the flat and then squeeze, but you still need to be able to circulate around the cubicles and things. So that's why I'm saying the office area is really not what's in play. I think it's the rest of the building like we've just talked about, is the areas that have a play in it.
I mean, we gotta get the cost down, and nobody's gonna disagree with that. And to the point of, I'm just gonna throw out just a silly statement. Half of that building is more than we have today. Not that half the building will suffice, I don't mean to
Yeah.
do that.
and plus we're keeping our current building.
So, I think honest, get rid of that center bay. It's not a good thing, but if that's what it takes to get this thing to town meeting and pass, then maybe that's, we gotta make hard decisions here.
Well, let's
And
first,
we won't like them.
This is
You
a
know-
smaller program, though. This isn't the biggest program, this is the smallest of the three. So the garage area, the main storage area has already seen, you've already seen two larger options.
Well,
I hate to
depends.
say it, I think you could get away with the 2 service bays, because like you said, okay, you're waiting on parts on something, drag it out of there, store it over the other side, or if you know you're getting into something, like where those trucks are now, you just,
You
the
could put one in one of
mechanics,
the-
right,
you
wheels
know,
his
storage
tools
bay.
over there, and you start
and you're also
tearing
gonna
on
have
something
the
over
other,
there.
because we're leaving the other rotary lift and everything in
Right.
the old building.
Smaller one.
If you had to, do some, so,
So I guess the 2 bay over there, I guess, where do you have the smaller lift for like small pickups and
So-
cop
so-
cars and stuff?
It's that,
Towards the
Right now,
wash
we
bay
have-
would be the big bay.
Yeah,
yeah.
With
and then
a,
this is
and
the
then just a
two
small
rotary
lift.
right,
Yeah,
yeah,
and then we
smaller.
left this bigger
Yeah,
bay.
yeah. So you got one that's tied up on the bigger stuff.
right,
Everything we have that's big is new, so.
right.
Right.
And
That
then
doesn't mean
it said,
No,
it
no,
says-
no, I know, yeah.
You get that lift that I showed him the pictures of that lift
Yeah.
that in there that's flush mounted.
mount.
So it is
Easy to use.
easy to use and it's a
Yeah, if
flat,
you wanna,
and it's a
you know.
flat stall. You're not
Yeah.
tying up it's
Yeah.
not a lift
You
that you're
can't, like,
dealing around with,
You know,
Yeah.
the
crawl
8
underneath
arms.
something.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But
If it's a
as far as,
lift.
Scott, as far as efficiency and mechanics working, if you're gonna leave a bit, lift in the old garage, wouldn't it make more sense to bring that lift over into this garage and just use that space more for storage of, any trucks or anything? This way the mechanic's not running back and forth.
Well, we
to
talked
around
about that a little
and
bit and then the cost of moving it,
The cost of moving that small lift is probably
yeah,
gonna.
you can
buy
replace,
a new one for a
it's
little
got
bit
some
more.
years on it. We don't even know.
I guess it is something good if you wanted to put something up there, take the 4 tires off.
Yeah, I mean, plus, like, we use it now, they've made a little thing, you can fool around with the lawnmowers over there and,
Communication.
break them down and,
Yeah, yeah, it's still got.
yeah.
So having 2 separate areas for mechanics, is that gonna be an issue
Somebody
with
push a
tools?
toolbox through.
No,
No.
And do a
Yeah, so
small
you-
lift.
they all have their
You
little
can do
roll
that,
cart,
right?
they,
Yeah, it's hard to see
There's a
with the
little
text,
corridor.
there's a door there.
Right.
because basically that's what
I
he
mean,
does now,
by-
you got the,
I mean, I gotta agree with Scott. That's $1 million for one of them, that's a big
Savings.
savings.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of cutting out, some
Very-
storage
very-
spot.
Very, again, I'll go back to my very wild ballpark cost. Get rid of the center bay with this garage. The total project is very likely under 20 million.
So why would it be $1 million for one bay if we're not talking a giant lift in there or something? I don't get that part.
Well, that's a higher bay. It's got the radiant floor heat in there. It's a heavier duty bay. You have your 4-post, you have your bridge crane going over. And again, if you said, Greg, I want you to price this one up, and I want you to price that other last bay on there, I can do that exercise for you. Okay, I'm just kind of giving you order of magnitude numbers right now. Because you saw, there's a lot of like heavy duty stuff here. We've got walls here, we've got all this little mezzanine, things like that are all eating up some of those dollars. So while this is a clean bay, but you see we have wall there, because this wall you're paying for regardless, and this wall you're paying for regardless, whether it's 2 bays or 1 bay. So this whole portion, the wash bay you just bought, now it's just how much of this am I buying in between. But you between mechanicals, lighting, sprinklers, bridge cranes, extra walls and storage space for mezzanine, that's how you get kind of $1 million on it.
So, okay, so you said radiant heat. Are you including radiant heat on your whole plan at this point?
For all the storage, yes.
The thing is, when you do the radiant, you can't go back and put a lift in for the radiant.
Yeah, I understand it, I
Yeah.
understand it. But
So it has to be laid
it
out to
just
go
seemed like
around it.
a lot for that 1 bay versus taking out that center area, but that's sort of.
is it a lot of work to tell us how much that picture right there costs and then how much it costs if you take out the center bay? Is that a
No,
lot?
I can do that, that's an easy exercise.
I'm just curious how much really you're saving.
Just to be clear, when you guys are saying the center bay, you're talking about.
The
that.
long-
Oh, Ford truck,
Yeah.
yeah. Keep the doors, that makes sense, because you might put a couple of pickups and
Right.
some of that stuff may be in the other shed or outside.
But you are right that this is probably the cheapest part of the entire building.
Right.
That's like
So-
free square
so this,
footage,
you
yeah.
were
That's why I
probably
was
gonna-
asking,
so
what's
if you
your
were to
real-
ask me, off the top of my head, previous thing, this is probably, because I'm keeping the doors and everything, just moving, that's probably about $500,000 savings.
Yeah.
Okay, so, with your experience,
Mhm.
where can we take some money out of there?
Well, we've taken all the money out. That's why we say, take this out. You can be like Boxford, go down to one vehicle repair bay,
No,
and it's
I
just.
wouldn't go to one.
And I'm not saying
Yeah.
so, but I'm just saying, this is where we're at now. I think right now you are at the most efficient bay. Now, let's talk about the salt storage. We're assuming you're gonna have a similar salt storage, 12-foot high concrete walls with a hard, like gambrel, structure on top. Could I knock off 200 or 300 grand by sitting there doing a fabric? Sure. But you're gonna pay for that,
Down the road.
5 years, 10 years down the
when you go
road.
to replace it.
Yes, you know.
So if we just took out more of the general storage for trucks, and why aren't we using the old building for general storage for trucks?
You are,
We are for.
yes.
Your pickups aren't in there, your mowers aren't in there.
Yeah, like all that pole barn has to be kind of considered.
So
Yeah.
whatever's in there.
The-
Square
the water-
footage you're
Whole
losing.
barns
The
is-
water department's got all sorts of stuff in there.
there's-
Again, if, just based on my experience on other DPWs, they were what you guys are asking for. If you say, Greg, I want you to scrape every ounce of it, the only thing I would do is take that out at this point, and you're at the smallest building you can use.
Wait.
I wouldn't even take out
Those are
another
four
one of those.
Connex
So if
boxes
you take
full
out
of
the
stuff down
sonata,
there too.
you'd move the bottom wall up.
The bottom wall
Okay.
moves up.
Okay.
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 This is about as small as building based on what your needs are, okay? Because I agree with you about the 2 bays versus one, because we even encourage Boxford to go with 2 bays. They chose one for their reasons, that's fine. But you have the equipment. I mean, you have your back trucks. I mean, it's not like we can't found here and said, hey, Mike, let's see how many extra pieces we can stuff in there. This is pretty much what your fleet is.
And I think, I mean, we all know we want to save money, bring this in as cheaply as possible, but we also have to get something that's functional.
Right.
I mean, we can cut the whole thing in half, okay, 10 million bucks.
Yeah, but then
But then it's
10
got, we got
years-
nothing that's
It's
usable.
not gonna
This is
work.
supposed to be
So-
a 50-year building.
Exactly.
We did this, when we did this building, the first thing was, and they started cutting, it's like, oh, let's cut it down and we'll plan for an addition. I says, that's the
You're already-
stupidest thing you're doing, because you build this building, today, in 10 years, or 3 years down the
Triple the
road,
price.
code changes or something, and you wanna add something, you could end up going through there and changing out the whole alarm system, half of your electricity, anything, when the code changes, it's gonna bring, you gotta redo
And
everything.
building costs are never gonna be cheaper than they are today.
No.
No, they're not going down.
Is cutting that middle aisle out, say it is $500,000?
When I do
If
it
that's
now-
all it is, I would say.
That's what that's why I was asking, if you
See,
could
here's the other
really.
way you had to, okay. Who are you competing with, and you guys are working through that, you're fighting with the fire department for fundings there, the dike, sounds like it's the thing. The other way to look at it is, so let's say you just decide to go with this building, as is, and you say, Greg, take whatever you can out, but let's just go with this size building. Then you have to ask yourself, so the question of the extra $500,000, what does that actually mean to the taxpayer? Well, if you break that portion down, it may be an extra $3 a year for the life of the bond or something that nobody's really going to see. Again, I'm a taxpayer like all of you, and all the things add up, but it's one of those things that I don't think the building will sink or swim based on a $500,000 move on it. A $5 million move, yes. And that's why I'm saying I would do everything in my power to try to get this into the teens, so that you guys can at least go in and say, we have scraped everything out of it. But at the end of the day, I don't know, if it came in at 18.5 or 19 on the tax base, it's probably not going to make that big of a difference.
When you're talking that kind of money, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, okay, based on that, could you price this building up as is, and then price up the building without the middle aisle.
Yes, so are we all agreed then we're only gonna go with 2 mechanic space
Yes,
now?
I think that's,
Okay,
As much as 3 would be wonderful, but I think it's just.
If anything, it does open up a little bit of room to get around by the
yeah,
gas
Randy,
bay.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that could
that's-
maybe push the
a little bit
gas.
nicer.
rate.
That swing.
That mechanics bay.
I was gonna say, if we're gonna lose that center bay, pull the whole
But
building
it's a
back
lot
so we
of
open
money.
up that
Right.
front
Yeah, you
swing too. You said that was almost
Well,
25
probably
feet,
option,
which would help, or at least 10 feet.
Yeah,
Would be a big difference in the front for parking.
it would.
huh?
3 and 4, option 4.
Well, I call
Three and
it
a half.
3 and 3A, that's how we go. 3A and 3B. So we'll price option A, and then with 3B minus aisle, okay.
Remember that. if we
That,
get to the
that
point
sound
where-
good to everybody?
Yes,
Yes.
that sounds great.
Option 1 was 3 mechanic, 3 front, right?
Yes.
And 3 back.
Yes.
Option 2 was 3 and 2, and then
And Mike,
2
you
and
want
2.
to just go back to option 1, just so everybody. So you have 4 back, 3 front, 3 base.
Okay, so the last one had 3 back, 2 front.
Right, because
Two
what we
mechanic.
did was we literally took out that bay.
That
What was
whole-
that, Mike?
yeah,
Like
that whole swath.
5,000 square feet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's 30 feet wide there, and
Yeah.
then you take out 20 feet for the mechanics.
Yeah.
Tom, were you able to get that numbers from the assessor?
Yes.
Figure out what'd you say, Jimmy, 24 million?
Was that
24 million you came up with?
for everything, with option 3 as is, very, very, very ballpark, everything 24.
24 million would be 535 per average homeowner, per year.
$535.
$535 for the average house.
On top of whatever they're paying
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, 16, I did the 16, I had Dan do 16 and 24, and 16 was 362.
And those are very, very rough numbers. Those aren't from the treasurer, are they?
No, this is just from Dan.
Yeah, this is just from the treasurer would give you much more accurate, because a lot of it depends
Ballpark.
when you
Depends
go
on what's
out,
coming off.
what's coming off, what's
Yeah.
coming on, what is the rate gonna be, how many years you pay, there's a,
But to Greg's earlier point though, right, you're talking about a difference of about 150 bucks, 175
Yeah.
bucks, right? It's either 350 or 500, so it's a $150 difference.
yes,
Is what you're contemplating,
right.
for lack of a better word.
What's your rate here?
What's our rate?
Yeah.
He's slow.
18?
It's like, oh, no, it's wrong, 11.
4, 12,
Oh,
13.
great,
I
I'll
think
give
it's
you my
12.
tax bill
Yeah.
then.
But the point is, it doesn't matter what the rate is, nobody wants to pay more.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of the lowest
In this,
in Western Mass, probably one of the lower ones in the state. For a lot of reasons, I won't go into it all here, but we've got a very big business percentage of the overall tax base. And we don't have a split rate, so that, but we're also one of the largest, if not the largest primary community in the state of Mass.
Yeah.
So we want to keep that.
Yes.
The rate's low, but the assessments aren't low.
Valuations.
Well, we offer a lot
They
of
get you.
things that some places don't.
Yeah.
Full-time fire, full-time police.
So what's like an
Every time we
average
get a
house?
building permit, my
What's an
taxes
average
go
house
up.
have?
What's the average house around, 430, 420?
That's because you talked.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's houses going up in the area being sold for 900,000 right now.
And $1 million.
Yeah,
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 me too.
And $1
Yeah.
million.
yeah.
So you look at average tax bill, $5 grand.
yeah. A acre building lot's 175, 200.
Yeah,
There's not, yeah.
with just water, the one on my street.
Yeah, put your own septic in, if you can find it.
Yeah.
Hadley's lucky, like virtually 99.9% of the town is served by town water.
Mhm.
Sound town sewer, a much smaller percentage. And depending where you go in town, for septic, you're gonna find, you can go down 30 feet and won't get a drop of water.
Right.
Another place, you'll stick a shovel in the ground and
That's a
you got a
geyser.
geyser.
Yeah.
So,
And then, so I'll price these two up, with an aisle, without an aisle, and get you that refined. You're good with the aesthetics?
Yes.
I think so, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
I mean, we tried to keep kind of an agricultural slash
Yeah,
mill
yeah.
look,
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Do you have decorative block on that lower portion, or is it just concrete?
no, so the idea here is that, so the, to get the insulation and everything, is we will have the concrete knee walls on the interior of the thing. The rest of the building, but we run the liner panels all the way down, so we get a tight envelope, and then this would just be a brick veneer on front of it, or stone veneer in this case. And when I say stone, it's the manufactured stone, it's not like we're pouring stones and stuff like that.
Split brick.
Yeah.
And are we remembering the amount of money it's gonna cost us to upgrade the water line?
I'm working on
And
that.
all this,
Well,
We're
there's
thinking
two
about these
options.
dollars.
There's the upgrade of the water line is one thing, but if that's gonna sink this project, we can put a cistern in for a fraction of the cost.
okay.
But it's also gonna raise the cost of the building.
So,
Are you, Scott, are you trying to get that out of this thing and through water reserves or something?
I would present that to the town as a whole separate project for water reserves, because that really, that's a benefit to the whole neighborhood in the whole area
Yeah, no,
as
I
a
agree.
water infrastructure upgrade. It really,
I think
But-
we had talked previously that work would be undertaken from the town outside of the project.
Was that roughly like $1 million? Is that,
less, yeah, it should
But-
come in less.
Don't you have to have this, I guess your plan presented by time we present this, because we need to know which way we're going?
So figure it's gonna be about 200,000 for the cisterns and fire pumps and everything. Because at Boxford, we needed 50,000 gallons of water.
So do you feel that 200,000 is included in the square footage?
No, I'm saying that would be, I'm just giving you, because he said less than $1 million.
but he might be 9 and that's 2 is the second
Right, so I'm
option.
saying you're paying two, so
Yeah.
if then, 3 years from now, you put the water line down there, you've basically thrown away 200,000 bucks if you hook into.
That's gonna have to be done eventually,
Right.
sooner
No,
than
I
later.
yeah, I
anyway.
agree with that. It's just like,
Especially if it comes out somewhere it's different, like you said, it's gonna increase the
Yeah.
building cost.
Some of these engineers don't move very fast, patiently waiting for some numbers back.
Greg, will you take a look to, as you shrink the building, you should see some savings in site work as well,
Yes.
pulling in the asphalt, like, we don't want a heat island out there.
Yeah, no, I understand. So Mike, if you go back to the site plan. So essentially what we would do, and it's probably about right to there. This would now,
It's
to that
50
point
feet.
there, would be all green space. By my pen, this piece down now becomes all green space, which means we can open this, throw it up a little, and, adjust that. I would like to get your generator and stuff on this side of the building then, just so it doesn't look so god-awful when you drive in on your main entrance,
That makes sense.
But yes, that would definitely help. Some of this other stuff, I know Peter got a little carried away. We're not gonna put a little green strip back there.
No, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just
no, we would
saying,
Yeah.
look at the site plan, pavement's not cheap,
Yes.
but.
Still cheaper than concrete with radiant
It's true, it's
Yeah.
true.
and a roof over it, right? So,
is, that generator is only gonna be for this one new building?
Just for the new building, yes.
Okay.
The generator in the sewer runs the highway right now, the existing highway.
Yeah, I asked them about that, David. They said cost-wise, whatever, it would be cheaper to upgrade the generator at the sewer plant. Just get it out of the basement and
I was just
do a
getting
whole.
clarification.
So here's the other thing too, and these are technicalities, but we'll get into it once we, if this gets approved by, things I would consider. We renovate this building, but we carry it as a unit price. Not as an alternate,
But
as a
we do
unit
what?
price. Carry it as a unit price.
okay.
Okay, we carry that as a unit price, we carry this as a unit price. The reason I'm saying that is under state law, the procurement law, if you carry these as alternates, you have to pick them the day you sign the contract. Where, like Hudson, we did it the same way, and the reason was, because we didn't know what we were coming out of the soils with. Fortunately, we got out of the soils relatively cheap compared to Whitman, But even we did okay on Whitman. So then if all of a sudden some additional funding comes or something, some of this, that's the way I would do. So some of that might come out of that, let's say we get the building, the base bid, and it comes in at 17 million. I'm just throwing that out right now. with all the other add-ons, we come in at 18.5, we can see how the contingency is working and not, and if we have it, we have it, if we don't, we don't. Again, those are just ways we can kind of, strategize this, because I'm assuming this will be first, second, third, or these are both kind of a second. This could be, it's ready to go, if the money's there, we're not eating into the contingency, and we pull the number, great, then we can renovate that, the system's there. Otherwise, that just happens, at a future date.
So if they're unit price, what you call unit price, either we can do it or not.
As a unit price, you can exercise at any time during the contract.
Okay.
So it's an option that can be,
Yeah, so like, let's say we're 3/4 through the project and we say, hey, we want this now, you can do it. Well, if you do it as an alternate, you can't.
okay.
The only thing is that when you specify in the documents, what we would have to say is the base bid, or the low bidder will be based on the base bid and unit prices 1 and 3, or something like that. So we have to put everybody on a fair playing field.
But like the salt shed, you said that's gonna happen
That has
first.
to happen first.
Yeah.
So that's gotta happen.
Right, and again, let me get the numbers, let me get, tune them up and everything, because you might decide, you know what, we'll go with the fabric one and have to eat it later. I mean, again, I'm not trying to, I just need to sit down now with the numbers to see where we're actually at and give you a better,
You could, right? You could theoretically bid the salt shed as its own project,
yes.
It almost, yeah.
right? You could do that this summer, before work ever started, 6 or 8 weeks after documents are ready, throw it out on the street and bid it as its own project.
I could have those documents done by the end of the week.
I know you could.
Well, you know where they're coming from.
Well, the same with the gas island, that's gonna happen regardless. We already got rid of the old ones.
But the
That's its own
point is-
project.
The point is you could do those
Yeah.
separately
Yeah.
and get them out ahead of the project.
Yeah.
And you might save a few bucks on general conditions as opposed to doing it all as one project, right? It's just something to think about. Just requires you to go all in a little sooner than you might
And then
want to.
Scott, the only other thing I'd say is check on your fuel line, because I don't understand how it works yet, Neil, but Rentham supposedly has wireless on their fuel island.
Wireless what?
Wireless connections and stuff. They don't have the Vita route coming in or anything. I have
Well,
not.
there's gotta be a way of doing that, because we just got an oil delivery down there,
Uh-huh.
and it came up on my computer before the guy walked in to the.
I understand
right
that
off the
usually
truck,
though.
right to
Yeah, so
my computer.
I am not familiar with the wireless fuel islands yet. I will just be very honest. Usually we run conduits out there, they can connect into the Vita route, they also queue into the system management, so you can do, but I guess with technology, they're doing wireless today. I mean, I don't think it's an issue with fuel spoil.
Let's run conduit anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you, Neil. I'm with you on
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
I'm
the
sure there's
other-
a security, I'm sure you've gotta put some kind of a system out on it that sends it, that's probably
Yes.
gonna offset that.
It's a lot more expensive than some.
And and again, I'm not recommending it,
When
but
the
like if
snow
you had
gets it
to
and it shorts
save
out.
some money, probably save, $100,000 or less than $100,000, don't put a canopy on the, fuel island. Don't recommend it, I'm just saying, if we're getting down to that point, I will tell you, and this is me speaking, so this curbing, at least around this area, I would all do it in granite. We can decide if you need curbing there. I do granite curbing. I know that people say, well, we can use the Cape Cod berm, we can use the concrete. All of those go in the first year, second year maybe, where at least I know the granite, if I put it in and it's not that much of an upcharge at the end of the, because again, we're building a 50-year building and we don't want to look after the first season of plowing why half the curb is in the street.
The only good thing about the Cape Cod is you can plow up over it and push back without,
I can also do
Popping.
slope granite.
huh?
I can do slope granite too if I need.
Okay, yeah. That'd be-
Yeah.
Whatever's gonna last the salt.
Next
We don't
meeting.
plow anymore, we salt.
Well, granted, it does get popped up by the salt.
Yeah.
Next meeting,
Yes.
when, based on a Wednesday.
Yeah, that would be, you wanna,
For the last week in February.
that would be great.
2/26,
Perfect.
that's the last Wednesday.
So, if we're meeting 2/26,
4 PM.
and then it has to be, I guess the finance, and then Randy, for you guys to put it on the warrant? When is everything has to be really finalized?
Are we gonna be ready, you think? We trying to get this for,
Trying to get
Town
this for the
meeting?
May town meeting.
okay, well, we can
We can just reserve it, we can
reserve a
yeah.
spot, yeah, we can reserve a spot.
Because usually my understanding is that you get the number in like 2 weeks before town meeting, as long as you, I don't know if that's how
We
your
have to
town
post
works.
it 2 weeks before the meeting, so it's gotta be before that, so let's say 3 weeks to be safe.
Three plus weeks before town meeting.
And town meetings, what did, like May 5th?
May 1st.
Okay.
Gives us-
So if there's any chance of doing the salt shed separate stuff, so we just have a couple of reserved then spots, they put, or does it not matter?
It's all gonna be the one money, I think, right? You're not gonna bid them separately.
Just throwing it out there so we don't miss
So
it.
Neil said we could.
I think that the capital request would be one bite of the apple. You could bid them as separate packages if you so chose.
It would still be one request.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's.
So
yeah.
it would all be
That's right.
part of the DPW
Yep,
request.
But you know, Neil, you actually, there might be a way of, and again, it's packaging. It's just packaging. Right now, you have no fuel island, because that has been torn down.
Correct.
Okay. If you floated a separate thing for the fuel island, you've just taken like $600,000 off this project price.
Is there already money for a new one appropriated, or?
I don't
No,
think
no.
so.
No,
I
okay.
think
No, what I'm saying is, you
Yeah.
put
No,
a
I understand
separate
what you're saying.
warrant.
Yeah,
You've
absolutely,
now
yeah.
just dropped 600,000, and that's an easy one to justify, because you sit there and say, we're out of a fuel island, we're paying extra by having, use cards and everything. We need to get this fuel island up and running anyway, because even if the DPW fails, the fact is, you still need your fuel island.
Well,
Well,
the problem is though,
maybe.
you can't run it all the way down there and back to
No,
no
no.
garage.
No, but what I'm trying to say is,
Well, you still appropriate that money no matter
if
where
you
it is
build
on the
this fuel
property.
island
Right, but if,
this May, let's say.
without the
because
new
you got
garage, where are you
appropriation.
gonna build it? So you're
Yeah.
not
You
gonna
just
put it
put-
up and screw yourself later.
But
No.
all you do is you run it back to this building. I'm just trying to say
Yeah.
is,
Well, I know, but that's a,
To me, it's a separate project.
no, but I'm
tied
saying,
in
that
with this.
this gets 600,000, 650,000 off the number. Now, you can say, hey, we could even save a little more money if we roll it in with the DPW, but this could be a standalone project right now, because you need it. It has nothing to do with this project at all. You're just putting it in the right location.
Yeah, but at the end of the
But-
day,
Still-
money is money.
Yeah.
And-
No matter what account it
Right,
comes
if
out
I
of.
pay for it yesterday or tomorrow, it's still the
Townspeople won't buy
same.
that.
Well, let me ask you
yeah, I
this
mean, that just
question.
seems like a,
If you put the fuel island in the DPW and it fails, when do you get your fuel island?
I think the people would say they're operating now, state police gets their fuel at Pride, so does Eversource, and say, let it go.
Yeah.
And even,
Keep
you could
using the
take,
cards.
it may be not inconvenient, but you could take 700,000 right off the top of this job by letting them go with cards and then add it 5 years down the road if they needed it.
And that's fine, but then I think that's a cost analysis that Scott needs to do to
That's gonna
say,
be-
When does it pay for itself?
it's like,
Yeah,
and
but
I'm
how
just,
long do you, how much are you saving on fuel to save $700,000?
what do we, have we got our Wix bill? What do we?
Yeah.
There's not much savings, so I mean, obviously, you go the,
It's just
basically, we're
convenience.
paying the convenience, we don't pay the tax, and our discount is very, very minimal. It's not like
Yeah.
you're
So how much,
buying
are we paying
wholesale.
dollar a gallon more than what we were?
I'd have to look at that.
So-
And what about emergencies? Is there ever a time that you have it available, you don't have to worry here, it's just,
well, so that's what
how many
Boxford,
do have the
Boxford
generators?
brought that up, the fact that it's in the middle of a snowstorm. Who's open?
Well, that's the thing.
We got a vendor right over the town line where you can go 24 hours a day and get diesel.
Provided they have power.
Right, so if you look at what I'm saying, power.
That October
I know in
snowstorm,
Southampton,
what,
there's only
Anyway,
one
12 years
close.
ago.
You
for
know
them
the
to go.
politics of your town better than I do, and I'm not trying, but I'm saying that is one way of getting at least your fuel island isolated from this, and whether it gets rolled in at this, but if it's a separate warrant, you could, in theory, take the number off the DPW. Just a suggestion.
So let's talk a little bit more about town meeting and working backwards, right? We're gonna need to present this to Finance Committee. We're gonna need to present it most likely to the Board of Selectmen. Perhaps that happens jointly, perhaps it doesn't. And then there's gonna be a whole level of effort for public information and knowledge heading into town meeting. If we don't meet again until the 26th of February with numbers in hand, we're talking about 6 weeks, 5 weeks. If we have to have numbers 3 weeks prior to May 1, we're talking about numbers by
First
April
week,
10th, for argument's sake. And now we're talking about 5 or 6 weeks from our next meeting before this goes public.
Greg, can you get
How
it
does
done like in
that,
2
how does
weeks?
that make the committee feel?
Potentially, so here's what because I was gonna say, didn't Neil and I are on the same, but, so I can try to get this done in the next 2 weeks, maybe, but I can always get these numbers out before the meeting, and we can, review them, even if we had to have a quick video conference or something on it. I guess that's the question, what do you want to see at the next meeting? We obviously want to see the number, but I will get you the numbers as quickly as possible, so that we don't necessarily have to, wait until that, the 26th.
I guess a drawing of the building with numbers,
Okay. We can tweak these drawings, that's no problem, we can fix the site plan, we'll fix the renderings, we'll, dress that all up so that you have that ready for town meeting presentation. I can get you the numbers, the assessment report, and I will get it to you no later than, what did we say, the 26th, but I'm thinking I could probably get it to you a week or so earlier than that.
The number that you're going to have for us on the 26th, based on what we just discussed today,
Right.
how reliable would those be for going out to getting a bid?
It will have the appropriate level of contingency.
Okay, so
So
that's a
that-
number
Yeah,
we could use as an idea to go out to
you only
bid.
got 5 weeks, Jim. We're gonna have to come up
That-
with
This is what I'm trying to work with.
We're gonna have to come
I-
up
you know,
with a reliable
I don't
number.
wanna be sitting here every meeting, well, can we cut this, can we cut this? So on the 26th, you're gonna have a number for us.
Yes.
Based on these two. And the number, the estimate would be enough, would be accurate enough to request money at town meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, based on those two numbers, it's either gonna be something we can swallow, or we're gonna be like, that's way too much money. And we may have to come back in a couple of weeks after that and cut some more out. I don't know. Mike, if it's a number we can go forward with, the 26th of February, the end of February would give us enough time to do what we need to do for publicity for town meeting and everything else, and whatever you need to do in the meantime. So I'm gonna ask you this. You're gonna get us numbers on these two
Right.
scenarios. Anything that you think that would be reasonable not to put in, even slightly unreasonable, I would give us some numbers on those costs. Like, even if it's a separate column, like if you take this
Yes.
out, would be this,
We
like
can, yeah.
a third column. The two building ideas and a third column, if you eliminated these would be the costs. You can do that.
Right, because I will tell you right now, first thing I tell you put on the block is, Scott won't like, is your fuel island. Because you've just said that if you had to, you could live with the cars. But again, I can wipe off 650,000 right off the top of the number. So let's say we come with a $20 million number, and I'm just saying, and I'd say, this is the full package. If you need to, take the fuel island off.
And that's a valid
And
comment.
yeah.
That's a valid
Or I'll
comment.
say, rather than a hard salt storage shed, do the fabric, but just understand in 10 years, you're going to be replacing it.
Yeah.
And if we can pull off, so I will pick out whatever I can pick out and
So
within reason.
those numbers would be line items, so we could just
Yes.
yank them.
Yes,
Yeah.
We're planning on doing VRF for the heating system.
yes, for the office areas.
For
yes.
AC.
Huh?
Yeah.
Heat and AC for the offices only.
Yes,
with
correct.
VR.
Can we move the next meeting up to the 19th versus the 26th?
How does that give you
I
time?
won't be here, but I can have Scott come as long as he's around.
I just want to put you under pressure, so we make sure we get there.
Oh, trust me, I'm not, it's, personally, I would rather tell you the 26th and send it to you next week. I mean, I'm not gonna sit on this. I just know that there is something come up next week that I just need to, get over. Once I'm over that, only reason I feel good about the numbers that we're giving, I ran our in-house estimate for Boxford. The OPM had a third party run their estimate, and we were only off $1 million. You know,
Who was higher?
I was higher,
Okay.
you know.
But who is more correct?
Yeah,
Tell you better on bid day.
Yeah, what happened to it?
tell you after the project's done.
So, but anyway, so that was the good news, and so I, you know, and plus the fact that because we've been bidding these jobs, you know.
It's fresh, it's,
We're looking, so even if I went and looked at Hudson or Whitman and stuff, those are only like a year and a half old, and seeing what's coming in on bid docs and stuff. So I'm feeling comfortable, as Neil said, it's really gonna be at the end of the day where we wanna, if we sit there. Prices are just dropping, maybe we cut from the 7% contingency to a 5% or a 3%, those are the things that we can work.
Yes.
But to answer your question, I will turn this around as quickly as possible, because I have no desire to sit on this, because I want to put this one to bed too, so that you guys feel comfortable with it.
So should we meet on the 19th?
Well, can
Okay.
I,
Wait a minute.
so I was just wondering, Randy, like, if, say he could do it for the 12th.
I was saying-
And then-
You said 2
and then-
weeks.
And then if you wanted to bring it to the board, you have a meeting the 19th.
That's what I was thinking.
Because then if you're waiting
Wow,
for
I
the
thought you were
board, then
tough.
we're out.
You know,
another-
you're a
I mean,
I was gonna
pusher.
say, I was just gonna drop that I was gonna be away for the week of the 16th to the 22nd, but since you're gonna be done on the 12th, I don't have to do that.
Yeah, I know it puts pressure on your firm, but it makes sense.
I like that idea.
Okay.
That gives you two.
I think 12.
So we're meeting on the 12th.
After that, we just picked up 2 weeks.
Can you do that?
I would like the 19th, but if you're telling me I have no choice, I guess I have no choice, do I?
Okay.
Okay,
We'd like to think you have no choice. How's that?
Well, let's shoot for the 12th.
okay.
If by the 5th, you say there's no way, and we're not gonna get the numbers ahead of
Yeah.
time. There's gonna be, at the
Right.
meeting, we're gonna see the numbers ahead of time. So on the 5th or the 6th, if you can't meet the 12th, give me a call.
Sure.
So that I can post it accordingly
Okay.
and not waste everybody's
Great.
postings, okay?
Are you gonna talk to Mike about getting a placeholder for the 19th, just
I can do
Okay.
that.
So, and so now, just to confirm for town meeting, you'll get a site plan like this,
Yes,
works, okay? You'll get a floor plan,
yes,
okay? And you'll get a series of rendering, and you can decide how many, I'll give you all the renderings so that you have them for the committee. I know at town meeting, typically they'll only take one of the renderings.
yeah, they really.
They don't need to see the back and the front and
yeah.
everything
Like,
else.
what's it gonna look like from Middle
Like if you
Street?
go to, that's the rendering I was going to probably give you to Middle Street.
Yeah.
So you don't see it at an angle or anything, and obviously we'll clean this all up.
The only thing we'd wanna see from there was this one, and maybe as you're coming down, it would be like the view looking,
This
one? Yeah.
that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably a better picture
That's
than
probably
what
a better one than
Yeah.
that.
Definitely
Because
better.
when you're coming down Middle Street, that's what you're gonna see.
Right.
So you like the trees, we'll just plant the trees there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
We got
building.
chainsaws.
So we got a builder here, that looks like a $16 million building, right there?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know, the ironic thing that's kind of, is, when Mike and I were doing, we go, that looks like a brick mill building, but it's all metal panel if you go with the red scheme or something. Okay.
It's an interesting concept. Is there any local prejudice, pride, I don't know what the right number is, right word is for color of the building? Do they prefer
I think-
barn red?
Yeah.
Does that
Barn
fit-
red, barn red, I
fit
think
in with
that's
what
a
your-
good color, yeah.
You know, kind of your landscape and your.
Yeah.
your
Well, we
feel?
figured this was kind of a quasi-agricultural slash mill
It's like the
building.
red barns out in the fields.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, we can make it green, we can make it gray, we can make it whatever color you want.
We're not doing it in blue, though. Blue is my favorite color, but building blue does not belong on a building.
How does the red get impacted by the sun?
They have what is it, I'm slipping now, the term that it's not the Kynar finish. It's the
UV
Kynar
coating.
finish on
UV
it.
coating?
I'm sorry.
The Kynar finish on the panels
Yeah.
and stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, in 10 years, it will look lighter than it does now, but it won't be pink. You know, it might look like Neil's sweater as opposed to the barn red, but it won't look pink or anything. So,
And how long till it turns pink?
I
50 years.
probably won't be around, so.
That's because you live in the eastern part of the state.
Tom.
I don't care what color you put, it's gonna fade.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Red,
say,
blue,
it's gonna-
Beige, it's all white, will turn brown.
It's
No,
gonna
that's
oxidize.
good.
White,
You have to know what you have.
But I mean, you
So
should
they
be able
know.
to get it easily 25
figure-
years out of
yeah.
it before it starts
You know, they're gonna
fading,
figure it
where
in.
you
You
say,
gotta make sure,
hey,
yeah.
maybe we paint it, maybe we don't paint it.
Yeah.
But I've seen some of
Scott.
these buildings go 50 years
These
without
buildings,
ever being
they-
painted,
Tim just
and they
put it
still look
showing
okay.
what money didn't
Yeah.
come in for what work was done.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So we have a green plan, gentlemen, thank you.
So one last question, the current garage, a block one,
Yes,
that's gonna be a separate line item?
that will be
for-
a separate price for the things in there, yes.
One more question, Scott just brought up a good point. So like the solar on here, the board waived the fee. So to make it known to begin with, because they're gonna try, get it reimbursed for the, I'm sorry, permit fee.
Right.
How does that work with the bidding? Do you put that out right away, that there's gonna be no permit
Right,
fees?
so what I usually, or the way we write the specs is that the contractor is responsible for securing and paying for all permits, and he gets reimbursed at the direct cost with no markup. We do that for the utility back charges, police details, and permits. The only reason I write it in that way is because then, if you decide to waive the permit, it's a no cost. On the other hand, I have seen the towns tell me, we're not gonna charge you a permit. New building inspector comes in the next day, pay the permit. So that way, it puts everybody on equal footing, and it also gives you a better deal once you get like the utility back charges. Because if I ask Eversource now what the utility back charge is, they'll give me 15 different numbers. Where at least we know whatever Eversource charges that day is what you're gonna be paying for.
Right.
You know?
And the alternative approach is that you have an agreement with the town manager that all municipal fees would be waived for permits and inspections, and you agree to pay the Eversource bill or Ingrid or whoever your power provider is. The town would pay for those back charges directly.
Yeah.
Send the bill to the town, have the town pay the
But
bill.
even under our contractor thing, the fact that you can't put any markups on it, it's the
Right.
same thing. It's
I
6 of 1
understand.
hand.
Again, you just,
Yeah.
you control the process
Mhm.
and not delegate it to somebody else that doesn't like
And-
to spend money.
You have accounted for it already.
So
I was
the only other
curious.
thing I'd ask the committee
And we'll have
between
a separate line item in
now and
budget
before the
for back
12th
charges
is,
anyways.
can somebody please tell me what they want for security? Because we're just going through this on another front. If you want the Genetec system, tell me now. If you want, I'm agnostic towards whatever system you want. I just need to know.
Oh, for like the,
Yeah, do you have,
building entry?
yeah, do you have like a fire alarm? Do you have a service?
right now we have fire alarm with an S2 passcode. I can get you the,
If you can get me all that so that we price the system that you want, and for example.
it's, yeah, we're eventually trying to get them all the
All right.
same.
And then the
type.
other thing too is, in theory, if that's the case, and this is more once we get into construction documents, is you as a committee would have to vote on proprietary systems to say, yes, we want a Genetec for the security, we want Siemens for the fire alarm, whatever, because it's what the town does. But by, code, by law, you're supposed to vote if there's a proprietary items on those.
I will get you what we have now from the
Great.
vendor.
Good, thank you.
Because we don't need any $80,000 of prizes.
Chadley, leave the doors open.
Well, he came into some of the other buildings, and we found out the cameras that they had at the fire station were the ones from China that were outlawed against, because they're hackable.
TikTok cameras? We good?
We're good, thank you, gentlemen.
Motion to
Anything
adjourn.
else? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.